Coming up on this episode of Ridiculistics.
First he drowns, then he goes to hell, then he eats breakfast.
1, 2, 3.
Words can be weird, some sayings seem silly.
For example,
What in Sam Hill, and what in Sam Hill is willy-nilly. But Joe and Tim explain it all, off the rails and off the wall. It's ridiculous linguistics, it's the Ridiculistics podcast. Let's just do it.
yeah, let's just do it.
This is Tim.
And this is Joe.
Welcome, everyone. Here on Ridiculistics, Joe and I talk about language, and specifically idioms, which are sayings that are derived from literal language, but put into another context to mean something else, like over my dead body, for example. Like, where'd it come from, and when, and how did it come to mean what it means today? That, in a nutshell, is Ridiculistics.
Speaking of over my dead body, welcome to our first Halloween episode.
Yay, Halloween.
One of the things about Halloween that I'm like, oh man, how is this Halloween already? Is when it's August and I go to Home Depot for something and it's like there's a city worth of giant skeletons marching at me. And I'm like, not yet. Come on.
Well, yeah, because it's 100 degrees out.
Yep.
You see what people are giving out these days?
You mean like full candy bar kind of things or like healthy stuff?
Full candy bar.
Oh, because that was always the house, right? There was always that guy, full candy bars.
Yeah, no, we never had that. It was you had your whole spectrum of fun size, like Three Musketeers, great. What's that? The one that's bad. I want to say Butterfinger. At the time, like I like Butterfingers more now,
Yeah, me too.
even though I don't understand what they are in any way.
They're apparently peanut butter.
Really?
I think so.
So it's short for peanut butter finger.
Yes. Now I don't want one.
You can lengthen it to peanut butter finger, or you can shorten it to butt finger. Either way,
You don't think about peanut butter at all when you're eating a Butterfinger. It's not.
No,
Even though if you really think about it, it does taste like it's peanut butter.
inherently what comes with a Butterfinger is confusion. Look at the ingredients. It's like polyunsaturated oils, confusion, sugar.
And then way down at the end, peanut butter.
Yeah, because you're never aware. And good for them, coming up with a name that just becomes a brand to itself and no one ever knows.
Yeah.
If you went out on the street and said, what flavor is a Butterfinger?
Yellow?
So basically what we did is we picked Halloween-themed idioms. This is our second episode, but our first themed episode, of which there will probably be many. So my first one is heebie-jeebies. Which you wouldn't
Just
think.
right there, the words
Yeah.
are funny.
Yeah, I know. And I thought their soundtrack for Saturday Night Fever was actually as good as everyone says it was. Because of the band, the
Oh, yes.
Bee Gees.
Wow.
Yeah, they come up to Barry Gibb and they go, who you be? And then Morris goes, he be Bee Gee.
Heebie-jeebies.
So anyway, so among the many things that are interesting about these idioms is that sometimes you find out they don't mean exactly what you thought they mean, or they started out meaning something else. I think of heebie-jeebies like, oh, that gives me the heebie-jeebies, which is like, that gives me the willies, or that gives me the creeps, right?
Creepy
Well,
crawlies.
Yeah, turns out not so much.
No?
Yeah.
Where's that from?
So the heebie-jeebies is,
I always thought it was like somebody's name. Like Heebie and Jeebie got together and you don't want to hang out with them. So you get that feeling when you're around something you don't like. Reminds me of Heebie-jeebie.
those two guys, man. Oh,
Yeah, I'm glad they're not here.
just don't invite them to the party because they stay until the end. It was coined in 1923 by American cartoonist Billy DeBeck for his comic strip. Okay, get this, his comic strip,
Billy DeBeck.
Barney Google.
Whoa.
Yeah. So he was ahead of his time.
Yeah.
Because that's how the term initially started. And somebody said, well, let me just Barney Google that. And
They sent Barney to Google it. Barney, get on that.
so he just coined this phrase and he put it in a comic strip. And after that, it gained traction as like this sort of nonsense word. People started relating it to feelings of anxiety, apprehension, depression, or illness. Suddenly, heebie-jeebies were like butterflies or the jitters.
Oh, right.
You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
From all those times you get the jitters. Or in this
Yeah.
case, my research says the shakes, the shivers.
Ooh. Why don't you rattle off a few more band names? Because the Willies, the Creeps, I mean, they're all good.
So here's what's interesting. Suddenly, heebie-jeebies became the title of his song. It was a dance craze in the 1920s.
Wow.
Louis Armstrong and his Hot Five recorded a song called heebie-jeebies. So it's really interesting that it was never really associated with anything creepy. And this heebie-jeebies dance was apparently like, I imagine it was like dancing the Elaine. You know, when
Yes.
I think of the heebie-jeebies, I just think it's
Yep.
like spastic and all of that.
Yeah, that dance gives me the heebie-jeebies.
With regard to the dance, the phrase heebie-jeebies implied eccentric movement and vague associations with mental disturbance, which made it the perfect name for a dance that aimed to satisfy the mid-1920s fascination with cutting loose and stepping out of convention for a couple of happy minutes.
What were the 20s? The 20s were roaring, right?
They were roaring. All this shit was happening before the Depression hit. Somebody at one point said, I have this feeling of mental disturbance. I got to dance.
Yeah.
The fact that it is not akin to Creeps and the Willies, which is a state of anxiety or unease. So it's a subtle difference between heebie-jeebies and the Willies or the Creeps, which makes you understand how they became sort of like one and the same.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's
They
so
were
close.
because they were close enough.
If you could pinpoint the difference between the Creeps and the heebie-jeebies and the Willies.
Well, I think the Creeps and the Willies feels more scary. Heebie-jeebies feels like more like a rash.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like it's making me itch and it's making me twitch and tingle.
Ah, got it.
Twitch and Tingle was a very famous duo, also from the 60s. That's pretty much what I gleaned off of my research from heebie-jeebies. So in a way, just not really Halloweenish at all.
Medical almost.
Yeah, it's a medical condition.
So like measles, you got the measles or the mumps or the chicken pox, right?
Yeah, except that I think that the heebie-jeebies you can get more than once.
Can you just get, I mean, if it's a mild case,
You just get the heebies?
so the next one that we're going to do is devil's advocate.
Oh, okay. Slap me with the devil's advocate. What do you got?
The term devil's advocate comes from the Catholic Church.
Of course it does.
Get this. This is so fascinating. This might be my favorite one. Where an official known as the Advocatus Diaboli, when someone was canonized to be a saint, this guy would argue against. He would essentially play the devil. And so, fighting against what he's saying, church, 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 good stuff. The alternate of that.
Right.
Oh, I didn't mean to pause an altar. That was weird.
Oh.
The practice was established in the late 16th century by Pope Sixtus V.
No wonder this is your favorite.
Oh my gosh. The very, very next thing I had to search for was there a Pope Sixtus VI?
Oh my God.
There wasn't. There were 5 Pope Sixtuses.
And it stopped with the 5th?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Here's what it means. It means arguing a position you don't necessarily agree with for the sake of debate or to challenge ideas.
I'm sorry. I I
Are
just
you
can't.
not gonna get by
I
Sixtus?
can't get by Sixtus. I just can't. All 5 Sixtuses, were they did they cover a span of, like, 50 years or something? Or because that's, like, somebody's super in on the joke for a long time. They're like, "Here's what's gonna be funny. We're gonna make it up to Sixtus the 5th, and then we're stopping." So where we left off before Sixtus derailed us is so what does it mean now?
I said it, but I think you were in another place. You're
Oh,
giving me
jeez.
guitar face. Being a devil's advocate means you're arguing a position that you don't necessarily agree with for the sake of debate or to challenge ideas.
I feel like in at least half the cases, it's just somebody trying to be a dick. Like,
Yep.
okay, but
In the olden days, that guy was predetermined to be the devil's advocate. But in
yeah,
a conversation like you're talking about, it's always said after the fact. Like, I just shot down your idea, but I was just playing devil's advocate. Wrapping up devil's advocate, also a 1997 film starring Al Pacino, Keanu Reeves, and Charlize Theron.
oh yeah, I think Pacino was the devil.
Yeah.
What do you think the best devil name is? You got your devil, your Lucifer, your Satan. Beelzebub probably doesn't something
And
else, right?
Mephisto, is that one of them too? I think
Yeah,
so.
probably. Which just sounds really painful. But again, it's Satan.
I'm gonna stick Mephisto where the sun don't shine.
Which, by the way, can be a lot of places.
Yeah, everywhere at night.
It's really broad. And it's not nearly as threatening. It's like, I'm going to stick it where the sun don't shine. Like down here in this cupboard. So this is one that really was like a last minute addition because I remembered my dad using this phrase from hell to breakfast, which I did not expect to reveal as much as it did to me when I researched it.
Really?
It leaves me with more questions than answers, I think.
Oh, wow. Do you think your dad also knew the stuff that you found out?
Well, I asked my sisters, I'm like, do you guys remember dad saying the phrase from hell to breakfast? And Kathy goes, yeah, but I can't remember the context. And I couldn't either. And so that also is what compelled me to want to look it up, even to the
Yeah.
point where I was like, am I misremembering from hell to breakfast? Like I would look it
Right.
up and there would be nothing there.
Yeah.
There's a plethora of from hell to breakfast because turns out there are a lot of sayings that involve both hell and breakfast that aren't from hell to breakfast, by the way. So basically, from hell to breakfast means over a wide area, completely, like from one end of the earth to the other.
Oh, because they're
You know,
different. They're totally different things.
I guess
And
on the spectrum of all the things, one end is hell and the other's breakfast. You might have suspected heaven, but guess what trumps heaven? Breakfast. In this context, in the way that it is today, from hell to breakfast, you'd say something like, I've been looking from hell to breakfast for you. Something like that. And in the McGraw-Hill Dictionary of Idioms and Phrasal Verbs, it adds at the end, used with caution.
oh, is this a touchy one? Does it get you on a list?
I don't think so. That's what I was trying to figure out. I'm like, why?
Maybe just because it has hell in it?
Maybe somebody would be thinking that you're mocking their rural roots or something. Every source that I could find says its roots are 1930s, 1940s, which actually
Okay.
seemed a little more recent than I would have thought. But phrases using hell and breakfast go back to like Civil War times.
Sorry.
What?
I just went like Civil War, like, all right, soldier, get out there and give them breakfast.
This was really interesting. So this Canadian writer, her name is Carol Tupar. She came across a book in a museum called From Hell to Breakfast. It was in the Alberta Aviation Museum gift shop, and it has World War II airplanes on it.
Okay.
Obviously, your thought there is like, who would name a book that if it wasn't relevant to World War II? She said, because of the research and writing I've been doing, I had insight into its meaning. Bomber pilots flew their deadly raids at night, losing their brothers in arms and getting their planes shot up. Survivors returned at dawn, then ate a good breakfast before sleeping through the day to prepare for the next night's hellish mission.
Wow, that is heavy.
That was the one, I think, that was the most plausible to me.
Yeah.
And there's more. So I found a book called From Hell to Breakfast, edited by Modi C. Boatwright. Yeah. Yep. And Donald Day.
How do you spell Modi?
Yes.
Modi. Modie?
Oh, close. Mody.
Oh.
So this is an excerpt from a book called From Hell to Breakfast, Publications of the Texas Folklore Society, number 19. This author is named Dobie J. Frank. He was alive from 1888 to 1964. This quote was from around the 30s and 40s. It says, out in the cow country, a man upon returning from a trip might say that he had traveled from hell to breakfast. Nobody could tell you in miles just how far he had been, but everybody would know that he had traveled a far piece and covered a lot of territory. So no real reference to breakfast there. Just like it's a long fucking way. You know?
Yeah, I think that really speaks to the whole difference between hell and breakfast. It's like, wow, that's a vast expanse between there. And that's what I just traveled.
Yes. Here's another one that's more interesting. It suggests that it's a farmer's phrase referring to the hours they were out early working in the fields before breakfast. That sounds plausible too. Like the time spent working often in unpleasant conditions before breakfast.
Getting up that early, I think, is hell, right?
And doing that much work?
I think so, yeah.
Before you've even eaten breakfast.
Right, you're exhausted before the day even starts.
Yeah.
I think you're onto something here with this being a very possible origin. Farmers, man. You can't doubt a farmer these days. I'm just going to leave it at that. Don't doubt farmers.
Yeah, and especially these days. Are they much more trustworthy these days?
Well, I don't want to talk about the old farmers, but
these are the new farmers.
Yeah. Yeah, like the new fruit.
Yeah.
Those new farmers are growing the new fruit.
So this last one is the most entertaining. Sounds like the least plausible. But again, it's like there's folklore here. This is from the University of Maine Folk Life Center that suggests that From Hell to Breakfast may come from a Maine folk tale where somewhere in the 1890s time frame, so now we're earlier, about a young man who threatened to eat his breakfast in hell after getting jammed up on a log pile before breakfast. This sounds so Maine-y to me.
What in the world is jammed up on a log pile?
Yeah, we're going to have to figure that out. Because I spent time doing that, and I'm like, I think I got it. So one morning, a young man went out before breakfast, got jammed up on a log pile.
Just disregard that for now.
Someone called to him and warned him to be careful. The young man responded, I'm all right. I'll take that off of there, or I'll eat my breakfast in hell. Then, the last part of the story is, the young man may have eaten his breakfast in hell and was never seen again for 2 days until his body was found. So first of all, who would tell that story in that way? Like, you're a bad storyteller.
It's a mystery. You got to piece something together and make stuff up.
Yeah, I thought the whole point of folklore was to tell a compelling story that somebody's going to bother to pass down. But obviously somebody passed this down. So being jammed up on a log pile is, I think, stuck on a literal log pile.
And he was up there and he couldn't get down?
Well, he said no problem. Maybe he needs to take a log off the pile and then he'll be able to get down or something.
Wow.
Apparently, he did fall into the water. He drowned, and then breakfast was going to be in hell. One of the reasons I think it's the least plausible is because he, like when you say hell to breakfast now, again, spectrum.
Yeah.
Down at this end, hell. This end, breakfast, right?
Yeah.
In this particular case, the way the story is told, this guy goes from hell to breakfast in a very short amount of time. First, he drowns. Then he goes to hell. Then he eats breakfast.
It should be to hell for breakfast. That's what the saying should be for that guy.
You're just using the wrong preposition.
You know what? That'll happen in folklore. It's like playing the telephone game around the campfire. Just got it wrong.
Can you imagine how it would be different if it was to hell for breakfast?
Yeah, and then there's to hell with breakfast, and they just go out.
Hey, who's up for going to hell for breakfast? We got more to do, so what do you got?
This is a quick one. It's give or gave. I don't know which one's your fancy. Up the ghost. So give up the ghost, gave up the ghost.
Okay, here's what I heard. Up the ghost.
Yeah, what were we going to stick where the sun didn't shine before? Because now we're going to stick it up the ghost. All right, so gave up the ghost was originally found in the King James Version of the Bible.
What is with you in the King James Bible?
I'm liking it more and more because that was always the one you didn't want to read because it was like some old English going on there.
Oh, yeah.
But it was hard to understand and everything. It was one of the earliest English versions. So Latin before that. So it's written in the book of Acts 12:23. You can look this up online if you don't have a Bible. It's used to signify death or the moment that a spirit departs from a body. That body was this guy named Herod, but wasn't the Herod you're thinking of. So moving on.
So the body gives up the ghost.
Yeah. You see how we got here. Give up the ghost means to die. And a lot of the rewritten Bibles and like King James Version, I looked up a bunch of different versions, and it's really the only one that uses this. So I'm thinking this James guy maybe liked idioms.
Maybe somebody assigned it to him and he's just like, we got to give this guy something to do because idioms are driving me nuts. What about the Bible? You think you could work some idioms into the Bible? James?
What if we make you a king? Huh? So these days, it's evolved into using it on objects and things that have stopped working.
Yeah, can I interject here? Because I was going to say, like, I would never use it on a person. I use it for dishwasher.
Yeah.
And I use it for car.
Yep.
That's it. Maybe washing machine, but definitely an appliance and a car.
Yeah. Some of the examples were like hard drives or clocks or it gave up the ghost, meaning it's not out of batteries. It's just broke.
It's done.
Yeah, it's done. It's having breakfast in hell tomorrow.
Yeah, it does feel like nobody says it's given up the ghost, therefore I'm going to get it fixed.
No, it's the end.
It's dead as a doornail.
Yeah.
Deader, maybe. Deader.
Deader than a doornail.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's possible.
I don't associate giving up the ghost with something small. I associate it with something bigger and more expensive to replace.
That would have given up a large ghost. Right?
Did anybody do that? Like define the size
the
size of the ghost.
Yeah.
That was this was good stuff.
That kind of sums up the Halloween. Ooh, Halloween.
Oh, plus the scary music that we're going to put at the top of the...
Already happened.
Did it?
Yeah. It already happened because the future you put it in.
Oh, right. God, this is so confusing.
Thanks, future me.
Technology, am I right? So that was mostly terrifying. I feel like I'm about to give up the ghost.
Oh, if you give up the ghost and you have a ghost of a chance.
Oh, can you give up the ghost of a chance?
Ooh. I can't even dismantle that. We want to talk about a couple of things that happened last episode that we got some feedback on, some forgot to mention a little bit, maybe a correction or two, that kind of thing.
Yeah, let's go into the apology phase.
Well, first is denial.
I had nothing to do with that episode.
It was like that when I got there. Because we talked about apple in my eye, and a lot of people pointed out, didn't you think of the apple in the Garden of Eden?
Oh, because I had said that I consider apple to be a newer fruit.
Yeah, and you might be right. First of all, the Bible doesn't say apple. in Genesis, it says fruit.
Seriously?
Yeah, it doesn't say apple. None of them do. Think about the area of the world that probably took place in, right? The Garden of Eden. It
Oh,
wasn't, apples weren't there.
you think it became an apple because somebody painted it that way?
Yep, I do. And that someone was probably near apples. I don't know. That's where the research ended. I didn't look into that too much, but yeah, I think if I had to, throw $5 on it, I would say yes, it was a painting or art that became why that is more commonplace now.
And probably more in like Western Europe, where an apple actually grows.
Right. What's funny about it is you kind of touched on this too. When we talked about new fruit and old fruit, you remember we talked about grapes a little bit?
Yeah.
Well, that may be one of the ones they mentioned, like the fruit actually probably was one of these three things. A pomegranate was another one, and also figs,
Yeah.
because there were fig leaves that they covered themselves with when they became aware.
Okay, this is making me feel so much better. So we weren't wrong.
Right.
Apple is clearly not the oldest fruit. Let's put it that way.
We weren't wrong, weren't right, we're whatever. We all learned something is what we did.
Okay, so it's time for the feedback section of the podcast. Here is an interesting thing. We want to shout out to UMass Linguistics because they got us some coverage from the Apple of My Eye podcast, which said we sound a little broy.
You feel like you fit in now? You found your people?
I've never been accused of sounding broy, and it just makes me laugh.
Speaking of connecting with us, you can reach out to us on our website, ridiculistics.com, and give us some ideas or tell us we were wrong about something or anything like that.
You can go there and find all of the episodes because this is the second one. And feed front at ridiculistics.com for all of your grievances, compliments, complaints. Are we doing Thanksgiving?
Oh, that'd be fun. Let's talk turkey, folks. We'll be making a turkey during the episode. It'll be great.
You do your half in your garage. I'll do my half in my garage. I think that we can safely say there'll probably be enough that we can relate to Thanksgiving.
Yeah, enough to pass around and share.
Where else? Instagram?
Oh, we're on every place a podcast lives, and Instagram, and Threads, and Facebook, and YouTube too.
Are we on ham radio now?
Ham, yes.
What's our, what do you call that? 1-9er?
Am I on my donkey? What was it? Snowman, this is Lost Goose.
What's your handle? Handle!
Oh, yes, it's handle. Yeah.
Yeah. Our handle is on ham radio is ridiculistics.ham. All right, everybody. This is goodbye for now. This is Tim.
And this is Joe.
Signing
See you
off.
later. What he said.
This was Ridiculistics, the Ridiculistics podcast.